Chris is a local from London, Ontario. He owns 2 businesses, and you and I met, interestingly enough, down the street at everyone knows Barney's Patio in London, Ontario. Give them some free publicity, I guess. But Chris and I were actually, they used to do the Miss Barney's contest, which was huge.
Yeah, we were I was there from the beginning, from like the first one that they've done, from the first annual.
Yeah, you were a landmark there.
Well, we sponsored it through the salons, yeah.
Right, so you were a sponsor. Yeah. Is that how you ended up being a judge?
Yeah, they came up to me and they asked me if I wanted to be a judge, and at that point, I had a couple of free hours to kill. So.
Sure, why not?
And they offered the free drink, so
yeah.
Sure.
I remember Chris and I were sitting side by side, judging women basically on looks alone. It was a pretty superficial. Actually, they did a talent, didn't they?
They had some talent.
They had some talents too. Okay,
so
there's
the guitar.
There's a little bit of depth there. Yeah.
Acrobat.
Oh yeah, the guitar. Okay.
Yeah.
There was some talented women there. All right.
It was like a Trump special.
And you're bringing back memories. You were pretty wasted at that point in time. The free drinks were overkill. Judges got to drink for free all night of that.
Yeah.
But that's where we originally met.
Kind of swayed our voting process.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, we were having fun though. So that's how Chris and I met. If you've been to a bar or in the nightlife or gone to Western, you've most certainly seen Chris around. He's probably not looking as calm, cool, and collected as he is right now. But why don't you tell me about how you got into becoming a business owner in London, Ontario, and why you even chose Western University, why you chose to stick in London.
Okay.
And this is London behind us as people walk by, for those of you that aren't from here. So start with your story, man.
So it goes back to Western. When I was at Western, I was going to a tanning salon that was just around the corner from here.
Okay.
And I just remember how busy it was. And then when I was finishing up, like I was in sciences and philosophy at Western and trying to figure out where I was going to go from there.
So you weren't in business at Western? You didn't take business?
But took Biz 20.
Okay, everybody takes Biz 20.
Philosophy of business.
Right.
Yeah. And my parents have been in business in London for years.
What did your parents do when you were growing up?
Variety stores and laundromat, apartments.
Because your family in general is very sort of well intertwined in the business community here.
Yeah, for sure. Like through my godbrothers to cousins and stuff, like Spaghetti Eddies.
Yeah.
Barking Frog, Burger.
Yeah, all those guys. We'll get to you guys. You're coming up.
Yeah.
But so continue. So your parents sort of started with the variety stores, but you took an interest in tanning salons even in university days.
Well, we were going to tanning back then. It was in the
it was like
90s.
Was that sort of when tanning beds had first been invented?
In the 80s.
80s?
It was pretty busy, but 90s it was like with Western, everybody was going.
Were they effective back then, or the beds even, did they do anything?
They were effective, but you had to go in a little bit longer. Now they're stronger, but you reduce the time to offset the strength, so you're spending actually less time in them than what you did back then.
Right. What did you used to have to spend, like a half hour?
They were half-hour units, yeah.
Half hour.
Nice little power nap.
Yeah, no kidding.
To get ready to go out later that night.
Yeah. Sure. So you took an interest just by kind of looking good before you went out?
Yeah, just, look good, feel good.
Right.
And then the whole thing is, if you think about it, when you go on vacation, you're out for a week, people are drinking like all day and the night, and they wake up in the morning, they're exhausted, but they sit in the sun for the afternoon, and then they can actually go out again for dinner and drinks, and they can do it all week. And
why do you think that is?
I think it's just the sunlight stimulates you.
Yeah,
feel good.
It gives you, it's an energy source, right?
There's a quick hangover cure, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know if it's ever cured my hangover completely, but it's helped me feel better.
But you were able to go again out the next night.
Yeah, I don't know if that was help from just the sun. I might have had some substance abuse in there as well, but we'll see. Anyway, okay, so you weren't even taking business, and you're interested in the tanning beds.
It was just a kind of business that we were going to. That just like a friend of mine was working there, a guy that I went to Western with. He was in our fraternity. And
which fraternity were you in?
Lambda Chi Alpha, my founding father.
Your founding father of Lambda Chi Alpha?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So if there's any Lambda Chi Alpha guys, your founding father's right here. Give yourself, put yourself in the contest. Maybe you can win a year of winning the glow like Chris has going on right now.
For sure.
Yeah. But, okay, so the frat, tell me about the frat house too. Like, let's talk about your Western days.
So when we were at Western, there was one of my best friends, Nick Matisse. We were thinking about going into a fraternity style thing. It kind of went with our social lives. And
why didn't you choose a fraternity that already existed?
And we went to a couple of them, and it was one of those things where I don't know, these guys aren't really, a lot of them were just kind of like, we didn't really know them, or we were kind of like naive and not really into the whole fraternity system. And then we had a couple of friends that approached us that were talking about starting a fraternity at Western.
Yeah.
And that intrigued us, that we were going, okay, we can be part of something, and then we can create it. It was an existing fraternity,
That's cool.
And but they didn't have a campus, or they didn't have something at Western. So then we pursued that angle, and it worked out fantastic. I think we have over 500 members now.
Wow. So you kind of had like an entrepreneurial mindset even when starting a frat house, because you wanted to start something.
Be part of it from the beginning.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. So what were those years like? How did you enjoy frat life?
Well, it's different from like the conventional fraternity stuff. Like, we like the fact that it wasn't all out Animal House party kegger stuff. Like, we had some restrictions with ours where we had more like a wine party.
Really?
And stuff like that.
Why did you have restrictions? Why did?
It was just something we just didn't want to be known as that big crazy fraternity stuff. There was enough of them on campus, so we decided to join something that's a little different with a little bit more social networking, charitable functions and stuff like that. And it was just a little more sophisticated.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. Sophisticated.
I say that now, and everybody's still going to think.
Sure, it's a frat. Oh, I was never.
But we're still there. Well, where a bunch of them have.
And you guys still go out, right? Like, you meet up with your frat brothers.
Yeah, like we'll have alumni events where people come down to London and we'll get together and we'll just talk about the good old days.
Yeah.
Or the new days.
Or just get blackout. Yeah, the ongoing days. I like the ongoing days are a good way to put that. I like that. So you graduated from Western, and then what happened? Did you try to explore a career in your field?
I was looking at it. I was helping out my dad with his businesses, and I was still going to the salon that was around the corner. And it was just so busy, and I just approached my father, and the government had some programs for startups for young people, and so I talked to my dad, his business sense as well, and I go into this one salon where it takes 3 or 4 days to get in. And I like the lifestyle part of it and the social part of it, and how it was like a philosophy of feeling good and looking good. Yeah. And so my dad goes, well, if you think it's got a chance, and I go, yeah, well, if you're going to a business and you have to wait to get in 3 or 4 days, then obviously there's a demand.
Sure, yeah.
For another one.
Right.
Close by.
No kidding.
And then about 5 years later, I ended up...
The competition.
I ended up buying out my competition.
Really?
Yeah.
So where did you start? So you started one just around the corner from this?
It was just down the street by the Tim Hortons here. It was the Brawn Shop. And I had a partner at the time, and we just kind of decided we're going to go our separate ways. He wanted to go into firefighting and look at some other stuff like that. So I ended up buying him out, and then a year later I took over the salon that I was going to. So
you had 2 salons running, up and running. Yeah. Wow, so you're like salon king, like tanning. What was your nickname? Did you ever have a nickname? You don't know? Because I know people right here saying your nickname right now watching this.
Yeah. Well, in the fraternity it was Snuffy. And
Snuffy, right?
The last name of Afentoul, Snuffleupagus, and that's what kicked. So.
Is that what happened? Okay.
So when I run into the new fraternity members, and then I tell them my name, and then somebody will yell Snuffy from the back, and then they go, "Oh, you're Snuffy." And I'm like, yeah.
So you're known as Snuffy in the fraternity. That's amazing. I love that. I can never figure that out. I never asked you about that.
Yeah, I know. So I thought I'd explain it now.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So that's how Snuffy came to be. Yeah. Good to know. So you took over. You had 2 salons, and then how long did that work? I mean, let's talk about. You kind of started. You were successful kind of right off the bat, right?
Yeah, we were, like, within a couple of years, we were, like, at the top.
You're at the top of the food chain for tanning salons.
Yeah.
And
we were just strictly tanning then.
It was just tanning beds?
Yeah.
Before you started exploring other realms?
Yeah.
So what happened that, I
didn't have time to look at anything else. It was just
so busy.
Yeah.
So what happened, because I know that we've talked about this, and I know that in the tanning industry, people still like to be out in the sun. I guess they're a little more aware of the damage it can cause, and
yes, it's all about knowing your skin type and just doing what's the right amount for your skin. And I always use this example. I go, you take an Arctic plant and put it in the Caribbean, you'll kill it.
Right.
You take a Caribbean plant and put it in the Arctic, the same thing will happen. So skin types from different geographical regions throughout the world is the same. Like, you're pretty fair, I'm a little bit darker. You have skin types that are darker from like African regions.
Yeah.
They have to be adjusted for the right amount of sunlight.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, sunlight is a necessity.
Yeah, sure.
For people to say either way. How would we evolve through hundreds of thousands of years up until the Industrial Revolution? We would all be extinct by now if what they're saying was true.
Right. So when did when did what they were saying start to affect your business?
But what they were saying at that point, we've had drops because people become afraid, right? They do fear mongering.
So when did that happen? Like, what was that movement? And
it was just, there's certain organizations that profit from you staying out of the sun. I'm not going to get into any blame game thing here. But,
but you're talking about potentially putting another chemical on your skin to protect you from the sun, right?
Yeah. And
so sun lotion.
So in order to get you to go from $1 million business or whatever, it was just an add-on to the rest of their cosmetic department. You want to make it into a $1 billion organization, you got to scare people to death. And now you go from a tube that would sit in your closet of sunscreen that would last you years, or would sit in your closet for years, to now you're using it every 3 days.
Right. So your hardest, like, you think the people that kind of came and were your opposition were a lot of the sun lotion companies and putting out there the sun is bad for you, so your sunscreen.
In order to increase business, like some people aren't happy with making millions of dollars. They need to have, if you're a corporation, you have to have increases, right? So how are you going to make 20% increase next year? Well, you got to get more people into the market. How do you do that? You scare them and their family to death, and you make them feel like their children are going to die. And then
that's one way to look at it, sure.
Yeah.
So,
and then how do you get parents running to the and then go through so much product? And now they're adding all this stuff to the kids. But instead of just thinking, hey, you know what, there might be a balance here that we can probably figure out, like, as soon as you put sunscreen on your kid, you're blocking 99% of that vitamin D production. And then you're reapplying it, and then you're reapplying it. Instead of, hey, you know what, we're going to give them 5 to 10 minutes of sun, and then maybe we'll put it on them.
Right.
Because they're going to be sitting out longer in the sun to avoid the sunburn part, which is bad for you.
Right. So obviously, like, what you're saying is too much of anything is bad for you.
Yeah, you can exercise too much, you can take too many vitamins.
Sure.
Spinach, which is fantastic for you. If you eat too much of it, it can kill you.
Sure. So, I mean, when it comes to these organizations saying that sunlight's bad for you and to protect yourself, as long as you're protecting yourself from sun burning, would you say? Like, as soon as is it the burn that's bad for you?
But do they even spend the time for that message? No, because there's not enough money or time in that.
Right.
It's either all or nothing.
Right.
So they know they can make millions or billions of dollars by scaring you to death from it, and then their appointment books fill up. And it's not just them. There's a whole bunch of different things. It's
marketing, right?
Well, the Skin Cancer Foundation is funded and created by the sunscreen companies, so they don't have to go on TV to tell you to wear sunscreen. All they have to do is get the Skin Cancer Foundation to send the messages out for them, which is a not-for-profit third-party organization, but it's funded and created by the sunscreen corporations,
I
which
find
are
that,
chemical corporations.
Right, which you wouldn't know, but there's a lot of...
No, but I know because I did the research.
Yeah, and as long as you do the research, I think that's interesting that you bring that up, because there's a lot of statistics that are done, and the statistics, people don't really ask the question, okay, but who's paying for these studies?
Well, yeah.
Because the studies can kind of be flip-flopped the way that...
If you'll do enough studies that you'll finally get the results that come into your favor. And all you have to do is just not publish the ones that don't come into your favor. So now they'll do this big study that says, this study says a 75% increase in skin cancer by having sunlight exposure. And yet they don't tell you that's like, there's like absolute and variable. And the 75% increase is just, what's your starting number?
Right.
If it's 0.2%, then that takes you to 0.35%.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're saying right now.
Yeah, they don't tell the public the numbers. They just say 75% increase. Just like this a Canadian litigator for the Huffington Post posted. She goes, I'll give you an example. Let's say one person in Canada was murdered last year and 2 people were murdered in Canada this year. If the headlines posted the same thing as what they did to the tanning industry, they would say 100% murder increase in Canada. Well,
I see what you're saying.
But but they don't tell you that it's one person from 35 million people.
Right.
So that's how they play with the numbers. And then, but if they just said the headlines in the newspapers, 100% murder increase in Canada, everybody will start packing their bags and leaving Canada.
Yeah. So it's all. I mean, the way that the articles, and this has been happening for years and years, right? I mean, the headlines are made for shock value.
Yeah, and it was I misused the words. It was absolute risk and relative risk.
Okay.
Not variable.
Okay. So, I mean, a lot of your life, like, how many years have you been in this business where you've been kind of up against these, where you've had to kind of be the little guy that's pushing forward saying, look, this is